In this video, I'm going to show you how to start making your foundation plan. Now, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you've got foundation walls and footings underneath all the exterior walls and below the porch. That also includes the garage. If it looks something like this, then you're ready to get started on the foundation plan. Remember the depth of this. We're putting those bottom of footing directly on top of the frost line, so it's about 3 feet below grade, and the grade starts about 1 foot below the top of foundation. So grade is here, then we go another 3 feet down. If all that's in order, let's get started. One thing I'll mention is that right here we've got a slab, and you should have a garage slab in place by now, but even if you don't, it doesn't matter. It won't have any impact on this drawing. Something that will have an impact on this drawing are doors that are supposed to be set down at grade level. So this door, for example, is set at the level for foundation -1, because again, we're assuming that the ground or the grade hits that line right there. So this has to drop down to that level. When you do that, you need to have a little cutout in the concrete, and that's actually going to show up in the foundation plan. Now there's a real quick, easy way to do this. You can see on the back of my house here, I've got a man door into the garage. It's set down at the right height, but it's not cutting into that concrete wall. So you're going to have a hard time getting that thing open and closed, getting through there. Here's what we need to do. Select the wall, go to Join Geometry, then select both walls, the top one and the bottom one. If you can't select it, then you might have the Select by Face turned off. I'm going to click on that wall, then the bottom one, and you can see it just cuts it out for you. And again, that will actually show up in my foundation plan. So let's go ahead and see what the foundation plan looks like. To begin, it should look something like this. There's a lot that's wrong. Okay, there's things appearing that shouldn't. There's things that should appear that aren't. We need to fix it. What it needs to look like is more like this one. That's better. We've got dimensions. We've got the walls that are very clear and easy to see. We've got annotations. We've got the walls that are showing with a solid gray fill, a pattern. We've got dashed lines for the footings, and we've even got some details to show what the concrete looks like. So in section. So there's a lot that we need to do to get our project up to speed. Let's go back and start making some of these changes. Before we go, actually, I want to point out, notice that what's happening with the solid gray fill here is that we're showing there's a material there. And the fact that you see these bold lines around the concrete is an indication that we're cutting through that material. Anytime you see a light line, you're probably looking at the outline of an object. Anytime you see a dark line, Revit always knows to show something with bold lines to indicate you're cutting through something. And people that understand construction documents, they know to look for bold lines to show that we've cut through an object. In this case, we've got, instead of solid lines for the footings, dashed lines, and that's because these footings are down inside the earth. They're being covered up by something. We are looking at their surface, or if there was no dirt in the way, we'd be looking at the surface, which would just give us a solid thin line. But again, it's covered up, so we don't see any material there, and we're showing dashed lines because it's down inside the earth. Now, what about this other pattern? We've got triangles and little dashes everywhere. That's the pattern that we always use to indicate concrete. And concrete is represented this way because it's comprised of both cement and aggregate. Let me show you a picture of aggregate. Aggregate is just gravel. And in this concrete, it's all exposed. You can see it out here on the surface of the concrete, but that's not normal. Most concrete is nice and smooth with all the aggregate deep inside, so that when you cut through it, you actually can see it. And going back to Revit, that's what we're looking at right here, aggregate and cement. So let's try to make ours look that way. Okay, back in the foundation plan. What do I need to do? Let's start by hiding things. You don't need your elevation markers turned on. If you select one, you can do VH, and that's category hide, so now they've all been hidden. And then the same thing with the sections, I'm going to do VH. If you only want to hide one of something, then you would type in EH, and I'm going to do that for the stairs because I don't want to turn off this stair. It's not that I want that to show up in the drawing, I just need to know where it's at, so I'm going to leave that one turned on. Okay, the next thing is that I've got an underlay, and that just makes too many lines overlap. It's the first floor underlay. So even though we'll have to turn it back on later so that we can put footings underneath that stair, for right now I want to turn it off. And we're going to change our underlay to none. It's already looking a lot cleaner. You can see that those areas where the doors drop down, we've got the cutouts in the concrete wall, and we're going to call that out as a block out so that the contractor knows he's got to leave an opening for doors. Here's my foundation slab. It's going to cover up the footings to the inside, so I'm going to hide that, EH for hide. And we're left with just what we need, but it's not displaying properly. The way that we can change this is, first off, let's make those footing lines dashed. To do this, we'll go to Visibility Graphics, and we're going to go to Find the Walls. Now you can type it in as walls if you want right here. You can also, if you don't do it that way, this is what I usually do. I just click anywhere and type in W. And then it brings up all the categories that start with W. Okay, and down here we find our walls. What we're going to do is give this a visual override. So anything that we assign in the right column will change the appearance of the wall over here. And footings are actually considered walls, at least the way that I created them. They're considered walls in this project. If you struggle and you're not able to change the appearance because you created it a different way, then you might want to go do the same thing that I'm about to do for a structural foundation. But for right now, I'm going to stick with walls, and I'll show you what it's going to do. If we're going to change the appearance, we need to find just the right column that pertains to whatever it is we're looking at. In this case, we want to use a projection surface, because that implies you want to change something that you're looking at the surface of, as opposed to a cut. This would change anything that you're cutting through. As of now, we're not cutting through anything, and I'll show you how to know if you're cutting through something in just a minute, but right now you can take my word for it. We are, however, looking at the surface, and we want to change the line style. So that's going to put us over here in this category. We want to change the line, and we want the pattern to become hidden. It's down here at the bottom, but same thing. You can just type in H, and it'll move your cursor to the H's. And I'm going to choose the hidden option. I'll click OK, OK again, and surprisingly, it made everything dashed. Now, for the moment, that's okay. Let's just leave it there for now, because we're about to change something in our view range, which will allow these to become solid lines once again. If I go to view range, VR, the reason why these are all dashed is because according to my cut plane, we're looking at the surface of everything here. We're not cutting through anything. The cut plane, if you look at the little preview, it's this line right here. It's a line that's actually low enough so that if you were to look at it in section, it would be inside of, in this case, a wall, or the wall in the background here, or that door. It would miss the window. But the cut plane is the height at which you want to cut through something in the view. And right now our view says that we're cutting at a height of 0. So we're right at the top of the foundation. And none of these walls extend up above the foundation, so we didn't cut through any of them. If we drop it down, we can't go too far. If we go down by a foot, we might miss those doors. So if we just go down 6 inches, I'm talking about the doors in the garage. If we just go down 6 inches, then we should cut somewhere below the top of the foundation, but also above the bottom of the door. Click OK, and voila. You can see what that did. Now it's trying to say, you're cutting through all these things, so we're going to put a bold line on there, and by default, we always put a material into something that's been cut through. Perfect. And just to better explain the 6-inch principle, here's 0. We were cutting through right there at the top of the wall. When we drop it down 1 foot, we'd be right here, and we would miss the opening. If we drop down 6 inches, we're right here, and we're cutting right through that opening. Now, fortunately, the garage door doesn't show up. If it does show up, hide it, but it shouldn't. And now the only thing left is that even though I can see my walls, they don't have that gray solid fill. And I just like to do that because it makes this drawing easier to read and understand. Okay, to do that, go ahead and select any concrete wall, edit the type, edit the structure, and we're looking for the material. We're going to make a change. Right now, in this material, under the Graphics tab, which is what we use for construction documents, anything that's displayed in construction documents will be adjusted by the Graphics tab. So it has nothing to do with the appearance of the imagery here. But looking at this, you can see that in a cut, it's programmed or told to show that concrete hatch pattern with the triangles. And the background is set to none. So I'm going to change that to be a solid fill. And I'm going to give it a really light color. Just click on the color. I'll move that up, something like that. And then click OK, OK, and OK. And there you have it. Now, anytime concrete gets cut through, it's going to show up with that color. And of course, it's still going to include that pattern. And the reason for that is because we did a background and a foreground. If we had replaced the foreground, then we wouldn't be seeing all these little triangles. Okay, perfect. Our foundation looks great now. The only thing that we have left to do is I'm going to have you guys thicken up the wall along the front of the porch. And some of you won't even have this condition. But anywhere that you've got a wall with concrete that's going to go over the top of this wall, and then it's going to go back and it will stop right at this wall. So we have a bit of a problem. There's nothing for that porch to sit on. And in a regular section, you can see this a little bit better. Now, I've already made some kind of an adjustment, which I wish, I'm going to fix this really quick. Hold on. Okay, this is what I had meant to show you. Something more like this, where the concrete, this is the slab, this is the porch slab, and it extends back, and then it has nothing to sit on back here. So what we're going to do is take this wall, and we're just going to make it a little bit thicker, and it'll bump out to the front, and then there will be something for this concrete to sit on. Now, whenever I made these changes, I don't know what happened here, but this is all wrong. So I don't want you to get too confused. Yeah, let's just delete it. This is what it should be. This wall just needs to go up. That's what I would expect to see, but let's ignore all these problems because I've made a lot of changes in this project. It'll have to be fixed later. Okay, another problem that I notice is that that footing is slightly out of position. You're going to have to move your footing, and I'm probably going to leave my footing because as soon as I adjust this wall, it's going to bump forward, and then that footing might be in the right spot. So let's start by taking this wall, and let's go around to the side. We'll get this one too because my porch is going to go here, rest on the wall, and it's go from here, rest on the wall. Okay, I need to adjust the location line. The finished face or wall center line may be what it's set to, or better yet, I think it was set to finished face exterior. We don't want to use that anymore because if I want it to bump out on this side, the exterior face is going to be a problem. So we'll go finished face interior for both of these. I've got them both selected. And then if you don't have a 10-inch concrete, make one. If you do, select it now, and you can see that got bumped out, and I still do need to adjust my footing. I want it to be centered underneath that wall. The way that you would make a 10-inch concrete wall if you didn't have one, you just simply duplicate it, edit the type, and put in 10 inches of thickness here. Okay, let's go back to that section. And now, if I move this hatch pattern out of the way, just pull that over so you can see, my concrete extends all the way out to here. My porch still doesn't touch it. We're going to put on a little cap over here that's going to allow that to drop down, and then it will come over across the front, and then it will angle back. And then it's just got like a little foot to sit on to extend it down to that concrete wall. But that's the principle, and that's why we're doing it. So back in the foundation, now that I have a 10-inch wall, tell that one's thicker than the rest. We're done. And you're okay now to go on to the remaining videos to finish out your project.